I am Doug White from Roger Williams University and Security Weekly. So Paul asked me to come and talk to you about some things. Roger Williams was the sponsors of the conference because we know that everybody's out there interested. I like to talk to people about how to get into the field because that's kind of one of my sort of missions in life because we have forever been shorthanded. We need all of you. We actually need you right now if you're not already in the field. I'm presuming some of you are not already in the field or you'd be listening to Bo or whatever. But I wanted to try to talk to you a little bit about how to get into the field and some of the different paths people choose because there are different paths to get there. And many of us have taken weird, gnarly paths and other people have taken very straightforward paths and some of us are still trying to figure out what the path actually is. And there's no right answer. I always wish I had a perfect answer for you and said, well, you just get this cert. You know, and you're done, and you can quit, and you'll make a lot of money, and you'll get promoted, and everything will be great, and 30 years later, you'll, retire. Excellent. But that's not how it works, and most of us know that. So I thought I would talk a little bit about this. This originally had some bad language in it, so I took it out, and I thought, let me get if this is going to work. Yeah, there we go. So one of the things I always talk to people about is skills. I mean, that's really the essence of all of it, right? I mean, it's really about what can you do? Because if I'm an employer, I don't care how many letters you put after your name. I don't care how you dress. I don't care what you do. I just really care, can you code C? Can you code Python? Can you pen test a bank? And if you can do those things, hell yes, you're hired. Take a badge and go to the back. But unfortunately, that's not as simple as that. Because if I ask you right now and I say, can you code C and you want the job, what are you going to tell me? Hell yeah. And then you hope there's a book about it. And that later you can pick that up because I've been a consultant for 30 years and consultants never say no. They're just like other sex worker types. We need the money. So we don't say no. When you call me and you say, Doug, do you know Python? I go, yeah, absolutely. And then hopefully I can learn it before I need to start the job. And I usually do. I only had a few real bad disasters where it was like, oh, I said I could do this and it wasn't. Or I already know it. But you have to be able to do that too. And some of us are able to go out in the marketplace, like Larry. I put a picture of Larry up there. And everybody knows Larry. And if Larry shows up at your job interview, you go, yes, you're hired, Larry. There's no interview. Just go ahead. We need you. Other people like Ash, maybe you're not so sure about. I mean, when Ash shows up with a chainsaw for a hand, I might still hire him because maybe I need a programmer with a chainsaw for a hand because that could come in really handy. But at the same time, I might not hire him. And the other piece of this is that good job markets make companies get more interested in you regardless of how you look or behave. Because there has been a time when I had a consulting client not too long ago who called me and he said, he just wanted to talk to me about, we can't seem to hire anyone. And he would bring all these people in for interviews in SEC and our InfoSec, CyberSec stuff, and it was a big company. And the guy said, and we offer them jobs, and they say thank you, and they leave. And they don't take the jobs. And he's like, why would that happen? And I'm like, well, have you ever heard of the fact that other people are hiring too? And so I said, well, interview me. I said, that's just how we'll do this. I said, I'm going to interview me. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to do your whole interview process. And so I did it. I was there 5 minutes. I was like, I wouldn't work here if you paid me $1 million. Well, maybe $1 million. I wouldn't work here for, what are you guys paying? And the guy said, well, we have an awesome benefits package, which is usually a bad thing when they start with that. When they lead with the awesome benefits package, they usually mean the salary really, really sucks. Because they're trying to sell you, like, we have a really awesome benefits package and everyone just loves working here. Really? Well, but what do you pay? Like, what am I going to put in my pocket? And the guy said, well, we have really kicked those salaries up into the 45K range at entry level. Really? I was like, you understand most of these entry level people are getting like 70. And the guy's like, really? 70? That's outrageous. You know, and you get that sort of disdain that you get from like corporate executives who make, $600,000 a year with $1 million bonus. And they're going, that's just an outrage. And I'm like, yeah. And then there's that whole dress code thing. So the other thing they had was a dress code. So I was looking at my evaluations, because I was pretending to be an entry-level employee, and I was looking at my evaluation of the interviewers. And the very first thing they wrote was, not dressed properly. I'm not kidding you, that's what this person wrote. He didn't write, pretty good C programmer, awesome network guy, you know. They wrote, not dressed properly. And they might say, beard, uh-oh. And I was just like, really? Like, you cared how I was dressed? And they're like, well, you know, like, but I'm not going to deal with customers. I'm going to be back here in this pit. And they were like, well, yes, but what if a customer saw you? Well, where would the customer see me? I'm back there in the pit. You can put chicken wire around my desk. Nobody will ever get near me. You can tell them I'm rabid. It's fine. I'll be like the network crew. You know, I work in the network crew, like chicken wire enclosure in the basement. They're like, okay, don't go down, don't do it too close. We just throw some beanie weenies in there every now and then. It seems to keep them contained. So you have to be careful. And all those things become problematic. If I can go forward. There we go. The good thing about all this is right now, the job market is such that you can kind of pick and choose. And even companies like that, these stodgy financial type companies, are starting to realize if they want you, they're going to have to change their game somewhat. Government's realizing that. There was this whole big thing recently where, you know, the FBI was having trouble hiring because they had all these different standards. We had a state police problem because the state police wanted to hire you to work in computer crimes because, you know, the people they had in computer crimes originally were like police officers. You want a bar fight broken up? We're there. But when somebody goes, well, this guy, like, you know, he like broke in through like port 60, you know, they're going, well, wait, what? He broke in. You got a film of that? You know, they don't know what they're talking about. And it became a problem. So today, all those people are trying to change those rules because they want to be able to hire you. So we still have to get back to the sort of purpose of this. What do you do? How do you get into the field? And it can be tricky depending on where you sit. And some of us are fortunate and we have letters after our name that people recognize, not just letters we made up, although there's probably some of those too. And that might work, actually. I'm just going to put some stuff there and see if they check. I actually fired 2 people in the world by audit that I caught with fake credentials. I will tell you a side story. I caught this guy, okay, let's see if you catch it. This is sort of one of those little audit things, pen test things. I caught this guy because he had a diploma from Harvard on his wall. Like, wow, diploma from Harvard, that's cool. And I thought, that diploma is written in what language? It's from Harvard. His diploma is written in English, but a diploma from Harvard is written in Latin. And I said, it's unusual that you have a Harvard diploma written in English. And he said, oh, yeah, see, they had an option. And he said, you know, you could get it in any language you want. And I said, oh, do they do them in French and German and things now too? And he was like, yeah, I'm sure you could get them in any language you want. I was like, interesting. So then we immediately background checked the guy, and guess what we found out? I called Harvard, they never heard of him. So his Harvard degree that said Master of Science in Marketing, Harvard University, when I called Harvard, they said, yeah, he did take a 3-day course here called Leadership in the World. And I went back and asked the guy, and he's like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a master's degree. It was like I'm dancing as fast as I can. You know, I was like, come on. So there's 3 places you can go, or all 3, or none of the 3, or whatever, to get into the field. Skills, training, education. So let's talk a little bit about it. Skills are great. I love them. I love you to have skills, and I want you to prove them to me. And therein lies the problem. You went out, you spent years coding in the basement. You have coded thousands of apps. You have done this, you've done that. You've defaced this, you've defaced that. Nothing illegal, of course. And what happens is you come to the interview and you can't prove it. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how to prove it. But here's some of the skills that you ought to really have. Coding. I love to see coding skills. So I do a lot of interviews for companies. They hire me because they don't have anybody they feel like can actually talk to you guys. And they want somebody that can ask you the right question. Like one of the questions I ask in every interview I do is, what's your favorite programming language? And you'd be surprised how many people that are interviewing for jobs say, well, I'm not really much of a programmer. Like, well, yeah, I didn't ask you what your best language was. It's like, what's your favorite? Like, pick one. And I've had people go, well, you're like, you don't have a favorite programming language? Like, damn. And then I ask them, what's your favorite port in TCP/IP? That's the second question I ask in the interview. And again, I have people that go, port, eh? You mean like the Port of New Jersey? The Port Authority? Well, I don't understand. I'm like, oh, you're going to do so well. But then I get somebody that goes, well, I like, Port 23. Right? I mean, we all like Port 23, Port 25, all those good ports that we can take advantage of, 443, 139, and stuff that I like to see. And when I hear those kind of answers, I don't really care what the answer is. It's like that what flavor of ice cream question they used to ask at Google, And my answer was always, I'm lactose intolerant. Why do you ask? I'm not really, but it's just fun to turn it around. I didn't get the job either. They sent me straight down to the smartass department where I got it shown the exit door. But I like Python, C. That's my thing. You may like Java, JavaScript, but you need something. You got to have that kind of in your toolkit. You don't have to be an expert at it. But if you want to work in InfoSec, you really have to have, if you've been here, you've been seeing that, right? You're seeing people that are coding, and they're coding in different languages. And it doesn't mean you have to have any given one, but you've got to have something. And you have to be able to sit down and say, yes, I can code something. I'm not a master of it, but I can code something. So you need that. And pick one. I don't care. Pick two and learn it. How you learn it? Go to some free resource and learn it. Be that person. That's who I want to hire too. I want to hire the person when I say, how did you learn C? They go, well, I picked a project and I wrote it and then I sold it to Microsoft and, I'm going, okay, you're hired. I don't want the person that says, well, I'm hoping that the company will send me to some training. It's like, yeah, we're not going to do that, thank you. Networking, obviously, I'm not even going to mention it, it'd be beneath you. But you need to know it, right? I built a program at Roger Williams. We built it around networking because we felt that was the more critical aspect of cybersecurity because that's what our employers told us it was. Because I went out and talked to the employers and they said they got to know networking. And again, those are the questions you get asked. You want to add all these CyberSec skills? Awesome. The more of them you have in your backpack, the better you are. The broader you are, then I'm talking about entry level. I know some of you are like specialists, and if you want to be a specialist, then be a specialist. But at the entry level, that broader bag of tricks means you are much more capable of getting a variety of jobs and then pushing into that depth later as you get started. So you say, I want to get in the field. I really want to be a pen tester because I heard that was the coolest thing out there. Even if you do get tasered sometimes, and only twice, it does suck worse than it actually looks. But get that broad bag of tricks because it gives you that appeal to that employer. And we'll talk in a minute about how to document it. And you can get all this just by doing it. It's how most of us got it. I mean, when I went to school, none of this stuff existed, literally. I had a student not too long ago said, Doug, where did you learn Ruby? Because I was teaching Ruby on Rails to some people. And I was like, oh, yeah, right. I learned it because I did it. I didn't get that in PhD school. And my undergraduate program, they taught Pascal and Fortran. So none of which exists anymore, really. But yeah, I see people going, yeah, me too. Like, those are great old languages, but they're gone. Sorry. I mean, yeah, I know they're still out there and you can beat that dead horse if you really, really want to. But you're going to have to figure out how you can do this stuff legally and how you can prove it to me, or then you end up being a free employee. And like I said, musicians do that. I was a musician, and I donated a lot of blood. Because you need gas money, so you can either get enough at the show or you can head down to the plasma center and sit there for 3 hours and they suck stuff out of you, and yeah, it's not good. Here's some free stuff if you're just wanting to be skills. Udemy, they have free classes. Are they the best classes in the whole world? No, probably not. But are they free? Yes. And free is good. Because as you'll see, we get into these other things, it all starts costing money. So we're still at the free point now. Podcasts, self-serving plugs. Watch podcasts, see what they're talking about. I mean, I love to watch Security Weekly because I hear people talking about stuff and I go, I don't know that. And I go try to figure it out. Or I go, wow, I don't want to know that. But I can go try to learn, and watching things and getting in the community like you're doing, so I'm very proud of you because you're here. You're meeting people. It's always great to meet people that are better. I love it because I'm the weakest person there, and that's awesome. You got to get over yourself sometimes, but it's much better to be surrounded with really smart people that know more than you do. Because one, they'll make you look good, and two, you can learn all kinds of things instead of being like, yeah, I knew everything, dude. And we interview people like that too. I've interviewed people and I'm just like, so one of my other interview questions is, tell me something you don't know. And I've had people go, yeah, I don't know what that would be. I'm like, really? Let me hand you this calculus problem here. Bring that back in a few minutes. A lot of different products. Some of the like IT Pro TV is a cheap one. It's not free, but it's definitely a bargain. In fact, if you go on Security Weekly, you can get a discount code. Don't tell them I told you that, but you can. GNS3 is a network tool that's free. You can simulate massive, crazy networks and learn networking skills and practice just your basic skills. This is like working out, right? You want to be a boxer, you have to train. You can't just say, gee, yeah, okay, whatever. You got to practice and you got to be good. And that way when people talk to you, you can talk to them. And that's what will get you that job. Cybrary, obviously a great thing to be involved with. Is it .com or .org, Jeff? .it. I apologize, I put on there wrong. I saw Jeff back there. So Cybrary is an awesome resource. If you've not checked, come by our booth and I'll give you a sticker. And you can check out Cybrary. And you can start picking these up. Curious stuff, radar page, another thing you can throw up on your screen. If you don't already, put it on your spare screen. It's just what I set on my upper right monitor is radar page. It runs all day long. And I just glance at it sometimes. I'm like, I look up and I go, oh wow, what's that? Then I get distracted and then I forget what I was doing, but that's okay. I learned something at the same time. Or you could get trained. Yeah. Training is the great greedy. I know there's some training people here, so. Training is the great greedy thing. You love it. Oh, it's so good. It's quick. It's a little painful, but it's like, oh, it's done. I used to do I was an instructor for intense school. I taught CISSP. I see back there, ISC squared haunting me. Keep an eye on me, make sure I don't say anything about that. ISC squared, great. I used to teach CISSP, teach CCNA, CCE. I used to train all those things. 1 week, 5 days. You're going to suffer the torments of the damned. But by God, at the end of that 5 days, they'll give you a little set of letters you can put after your name, and you can go home and go, yes. And does it work? It does. And I know some people here, especially at this conference, are contemptuous of some of that stuff. Because they say, oh, you got some letters in a week, you don't know a damn thing. And you may be right. But at the same time, you can put these letters after your name without spending all that money. Because you can just go take the test. I mean, you don't have to come pay me at Intense School a whole pile of money. I don't work for them anymore, but you could just take the test. I don't know of any certs. Some of them do require you to demonstrate some kind of training, but you can say you self-studied. If you're going to take the CCE, you can just write it down and go, I self-studied. Okay, take the test. If you pass, you're a CCE. You can do digital forensics. And that literally is all it takes sometimes. It can get you the job. And I will tell you another thing about training. You may have to do it. Because now when you look, because the industry started to mature, you look at the entry level and guess what you're going to see? This required, that required, this required, that required. And that gets trickier. Because now you say, I have to have this. I have to have an A+. And you may sit there and go, A+, come on. Seriously, Doug? I don't think that much of it either. But hope they're not here. But guess what? If that job says you have to have it, what's going to happen when you try to apply for it and you don't? It's not going to be me looking at your resume. It's going to be some drone who goes down a little checklist and goes, A+? No, okay. S+? No. They don't have any of the requirements, rejected. No matter how good you are, so sometime you're going to have to figure out a way to prove to me that you can do it. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And then there's college. I mean, college is cool, right? I mean, everybody likes college. I liked it. It was fun. I loved computer science. I wasn't so keen on Greek. Yeah, that's the first line of the Iliad if you don't just happen to read Greek. But I mean, college is a blast and it's fun and you get to go party and have a good time and you might meet somebody and you might even learn something. But then there's that. College isn't cheap. I mean, you can do, there's cheap paths, like, I'll talk a little bit about it at the end, but college is expensive. And it's expensive in more ways than just cash, right? It takes time. Because one of the big problems a lot of people in InfoSec have is they don't have bachelor's degrees. And I meet more and more people like that. And bachelor's degrees are murderous. How many credits do you have to get a bachelor's degree? 120. 120 credits. So with 3 credit courses, that's 40 courses. Most people, you guys are smarter than most people, so you might could take 6 courses a semester. Welcome to the rest of your life. I mean, if you're a part-time student, that takes a long, long time. And there's ways around it, but it still takes a lot of time. But college is an awfully cool option if you can do it. And it ends up being a stumbling block. At the end, I'm going to talk about some perils of all this. But one of the perils of all this is that you don't go to college. And I get that a lot. I work with Cyber Patriots, so I get a lot of high school students going, man, I'm good at this. Can I go get a job? I'm like, yeah, you can. But get a job, they pay your tuition. And then you can go to college while you're working. And yeah, it'll take you 8 years, but you're working. And instead of you paying all that money, you're getting paid, and and they're paying your tuition. So that's one of those things you can do. I mean, and some of us are older, and it may not be that big of an option for you, but at the same time, there are solutions you can pursue. And if you don't do it, and we can argue all day long about whether it's worthwhile or not. And you see everybody argues all the time, and there's Wall Street Journal articles, and there's Washington Post articles about, is college worth it? But the truth is, in most professions, professionally, I don't know what history majors do. All my friends who were history majors, and I'm not making this up, all my friends who were history majors went to federal prison for selling drugs. Now, they were damn good at selling drugs until they got caught. They made millions and millions and millions of dollars until my old roommate ratted out everybody. He got caught with $800,000 in a speeding trap. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I would have told them never to trust him with money, but they did anyway. And they all went to prison. But professionals like you guys, at some point in your career, you stop wanting to be in the chicken wire cage, maybe. Some people don't. Some people are cool in the chicken wire cage forever. I'm actually pretty good with it personally. I'm not that big of a people person. I kind of like, the chicken wire cage. Customers don't come down here. We don't let them in the basement. Like, good. When I ran the programming shop at the bank, we could see people, but it was through 8 glass walls. So we could see them off in the distance kind of moving, like herding and flocking or whatever they do. Like, see, there's somebody moving way over there. But they couldn't get to us. And when I was a SysOp undergrad, oh God, it was so good. It was awesome, because the mainframe is the almost awesomest amount of power you'll ever have in your life, because I completely controlled it. I don't like you, your node is dead. You couldn't use that local crap. Your node came up and it was like, bleh. And I had this little frosted glass window, and people would foolishly knock on it, despite the fact there was a sign that said, do not knock on window. You just knocked on my window, come back in 3 hours. It was great. Cut me off in the parking lot? Yeah, the window's never opening for you again. Have a nice day. But college, I don't know. And we have to talk about it a little bit. I have to wake up my mouse. Come on, wake up. Not going to wake up now? Okay, we'll do this the old-fashioned way. Or maybe we're locked up. So there's really 3 things you can do then. One I call the bare naked path. Go crazy. Hack naked. I don't got nothing. I'm going to come to the interview and I'm going to sell it to you. Cool, if you can do it. I sat down and I came, and I've seen this done. I sat down and I brought, my credentials, my portfolio. And if you can do that, that's cool. Here's stuff I wrote. Here's apps I sold. Here's things I did for people. And I somehow documented that. It's tough to do, especially the further up corporate you go. You get startups, you got a little more opportunity because they're kind of desperate. You get into corporate, it's tough because they got their rules and their regs, and some HR person's looking and you go, he brought a whole bunch of paper and some like tapes and things, and it's like, yeah. The other one, clothing optional, that's not a bad path really. Clothing optional means, put a few letters after your name. And I'll tell you which ones to put in a minute, I really will. Or I'll at least tell you how to figure out which ones to put. So put a few letters after your name, and you can do it. You don't have to invest thousands and thousands of dollars and years of your life. You can go out and you can identify these things. You can use free resources. You can self-study, and you can pass that thing and put a couple of letters after your name. You can do it. I promise you. If you're here, you're smart enough to do it. I mean, if you were out, laying in the alley or something, it might be a little more challenging, but you're here. So you took time out of your day or whatever to come to these presentations. And then the last one, well, I mean, obviously the last one's pretty good. I mean, the more letters, you put letters after your name, it's a good thing. And you put all kinds of stuff. You put Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity, Bachelor of Science in Networking, Electrical Engineering, even business. It doesn't matter. You put that after your name and people go, okay, you have a bachelor's degree, check mark. Or maybe you actually learned something, double check mark. History, well, at least I know where to buy weed. But at least you could put those check marks on there and it's going to work. I think my mouse must have run out of juice. So what should you do? This is my plan. Go to the job boards. Go to Monster, go to Dice, whatever you like. I don't care. Find a job that you want. Maybe you're not necessarily qualified, but find the one that you want now. Play. It's like a game. Find something cool. Wow, look at that. That's awesome. And look at what it tells you you must have. Whatever level you're on, this is how I strategize this. What do I have to get that job? So that's sort of my first step. If the job says you must have royal blood from the Vlad the Impaler family to apply for this job, you probably don't qualify. And you go, but could I? I don't know. You have to ask yourself that, and people do kind of shoot a high sometimes. They start saying, well, yeah, I could get the OSCP and the CCNA and a PhD in a what, year, 2? And that's kind of stupid because you just waste a bunch of time that way. Look at stuff that's realistic, that's just a little above your level, and say, can I get that job in, say, like 6 months to a year? And what would I need to do that? What cert do I need? Because it says you must have an A+, and I go, oh God, A+, really? Go get it then. Because when my students tell me, oh, it's so lame, I'm like, then it should be easy. Just go get it. It'll take you, what, no study time to pass? Then just go pass it. Yeah, it's lame, I don't care. Or maybe it's not so lame. Maybe it says you have to have OSCP. OSCP's hard. That's down tough. Maybe it says, this is my favorite, OSCP or CEH. We did a show about that, and boy, some people got really upset with me because I said, get the one that works. And I'm like, CEH, yeah, okay, that's what. Grab a book, we'll be ready to go. OSCP, not so easy. I'm like, and then this whole argument erupted about which one's better. And I was like, I'm not arguing about which one's better. I'm talking about which one do you need? Worry about the cool stuff when somebody else is paying the bills. That's been my life philosophy. It's like, somebody else is paying, great, go get an OSCP. Let the company shell out for training, and you can go to training. You can go to SANS. SANS is cool. Everybody been to SANS? Been to SANS class? Yeah, so there's a bunch of people. It's cool, right? I used to go to SANS, and then, my company was like, wow, that was expensive. It's awesome, though. If somebody sends me to SANS, I'm always like, I'll go, yeah, I'll take that. It's like, I'll sit in that class. It'd be awesome. They get great instructors and all that kind of stuff. So SANS is really, really cool. But it costs money. So if you just need a CEH, and it says CEH or OSCP, don't get carried away. Oh, if you could do the OSCP, cool, do it. But if you can't, or you're going to have to go spend 10 grand to get it, maybe just get the CEH, and then there's a check mark, and you can apply for that job. If it says A+ at CEH, got it. Now, if it says bachelor's degree, well, we'll try to talk about that in a little bit. But you got to figure out a way to do that. If you have to get the degree, then I don't know. That's a tougher question to answer because it may take you some time. But I will talk a little bit about that and apply for the job. Don't not do that. That would be kind of silly. How do you get in the door? Well, it may take some social engineering. That's one way. I'm not talking about illegal stuff. HR can be restrictive if you don't have a degree. They say you don't have it, you don't have it. And this is where I want to talk a minute about portfolios. So the idea that you try to put this stuff together. Document what you do in your life. This is one of the great shortcomings in InfoSec. People don't document what they do. They're proud of it, but they don't document it. You need to think about all this cool stuff you're doing. You're here at this conference and you're breaking that 3PO. Wow, that's cool. You're breaking the IoT thing. You're breaking the SDR thing. You're breaking that thing and this thing over there. Document that stuff. It doesn't have to be some kind of fancy piece of parchment. Document it. Put it in a file somehow. Video yourself talking about it and telling what you did and collect all that stuff, and you can take that to these people and find it, but you're not going to take it to HR because guess what HR is going to do with it? I'm sorry, we don't accept, like, what is this? Fill out an application form, please. So how do you get it to people? You're already doing it. You're here. You go to these cons, and guess what happens? You know people. You keep going. You go to this con, you go to Vegas, you go to DEF CON, you go to Connecticut and go to B-Sides. You're going to see some of the people sitting here I've seen, not just in the Dakotas. And you start meeting, so you need to meet people and have them meet you. Talk to these vendors, because all those vendors out there are people that are in this industry. I was having such a good time. I was talking to ISC Squared earlier. And they said, do you know, we were just talking the other day to Congressman Jim Langevin, he's the chair of the Cyber Caucus, and I said, oh yeah, he did my thing on Saturday last week. Small community. So get to know people and impress them. And that way when you're applying for the job, you may walk in and the person sitting there is him. He's the guy interviewing you, or it's me, and you already know what I'm going to ask you, right? What's the first question going to be in my mouth? What's your favorite programming language? And you'll be ready, because you go, oh, it's Doug, hey. And you go, hey, Doug, remember? And I go, oh yeah, I remember you. You weren't that guy that barfed on me, right? But that's okay. You're a really good coder, but document that stuff. Find a way, even if you've got all these other things after your name, find a way to contain that and put it somewhere that you can reproduce it when somebody wants to see it. Because that can sell me on it. If you could get past HR, and there's a way around it that doesn't involve any kind of elaborate social engineering and wearing disguises. It's just simply going, I know somebody who works at that company. I met them at a con. I've got them in my list of names. I'm going to call him up, or I'm going to hit them up on Instagram or on Twitter and say, hey, Doug, I saw you work for Paul's Security Weekly too. I was hoping to get this programming job. Remember me? I'm the guy that barfed on you at DEF CON. Oh yeah, that guy. You owe me a shirt. But that just got you past those guys every single time. I guarantee it will work, because that kind of networking will sell everybody on you. And it works so well because in these kind of small communities of experts, everybody knows everybody pretty much. And if nobody knows you because you've never been out of the dark and you never went to a con and met people, or you didn't do slide roulette, then nobody knows you. And that's cool too. That will work. Oops, I advanced. You can go back to HR and come in that door too. Nothing wrong with that. You got to have all your check boxes. So, it changed. I guess it knew I was talking about this. So try to go. I know these things cost money and they take time, but you can go to cheap ones like this. You don't have to go to DEF CON. I mean, DEF CON's cool, but it's expensive. But look at this. This thing's cheap, right? It's a cheap place, cheap registration, and they had all the big shot people here anyway. I mean, Dave Kennedy was over there. It wasn't like you were having to listen to me. Oh, wait. See, you messed up. But you're meeting people, and you're making friends, and that's going to pay off big. Now what is it doing? You really need to work a little bit on this. I interview a lot of people. Yeah. And one of the problems I see a lot, and it will get you cut fast, is lack of attention to detail. I promise. If you can't spell things, I literally interviewed someone once who had misspelled their name repeatedly on their resume. I was like, your name you put on this form is different than your resume. And the person's like, oh yeah, how about that? I was like, yeah, thanks for coming in. Yes, sir. Oh, you're waving. Okay. He's waving me down. That's good. That's good. So think about to get cards. This is another thing I always teach my daughter. I'm like, get cards made. They don't have to say anything fancy on them. Get cards made. Say, Doug White, C programmer. Interested in a job. Here's a nice card I'm going to hand you because then you got my stuff. And I know it's old-fashioned. My daughter was like, it's so old-fashioned. I was like, it is, but it works. That's why it keeps happening. Because collect cards. You can scan them in and make elaborate databases out of them. You can show me that in the interview. Look what I built. You can have a copy. Cool. Certs, I put them on the screen. These are mostly entry-level certs. None of these certs are going to steer you wrong. And if you go to monster.com or dice.com and look at all these certs, you will see them. And I'm not going to argue about their quality or their lack thereof. I'm going to say that these are certs that are common. They are out there, and you need to look at, and I didn't mention CISSP because that's a little more advanced than entry level. That's a great cert too. I have one. I keep it up because it's valuable. It requires some work experience, so I was trying to talk to entry level. But find the cert you need. Don't get certs you don't need because that costs money and you got to maintain them. So get the ones you want. Look at monster.com or dice.com or whatever you like. Make a list and then check the prices. What will this cost me to get? And you can price it not just in dollars, but in time. You can say, I can get this A+ cert in a week. Self-study, cost me whatever it costs, $300. Good. It's going to take me 6 months of study to get this master's degree, or a year, and it's going to cost $40,000. It might not be my best option. So maybe I need to revise what I'm looking for. Or maybe I need to go get the master's degree. You pick. Or find a company to work for that will pay for your master's degree. That's a good idea. I like it. I hate paying for stuff. College, there's all kinds of options. One option, associate's degrees. A lot of states now have community college degree plans in cyber. They often have very good ones, but research it and see if they're teaching what you need to know. Don't just sign up. Look at that course catalog and say, am I learning Cisco and I'm learning cybersecurity and I'm learning stuff they say I'm learning, or am I just really taking a bunch of computer science courses in Fortran programming that have been renamed cybersecurity through Fortran programming? Because they do that. So look carefully. But associate's degrees, a lot of states that's free. So you can go to a 2-year school for free and get an associate's degree. That will set you up so when you get a job, they can pay your tuition, you can finish that to a 4 years degree. A lot of schools will do that for you. They have articulation agreements between those schools so you can transfer your credits, all that kind of stuff. But just study. You guys are smart. So you could study this stuff and figure out what you need to do. And you have friends in the industry, so you can ask questions. I have people literally write me questions that watch Secure Digital Life and say, Doug, can you explain what an associate's degree is? I had that a couple of weeks ago. I didn't put it on the show, but I answered their question. So when you have those kind of questions, you got friends that you know from these shows, and people will answer. Bachelor's degrees, 120 credits. Master's degrees, usually 1 or 2 years, 30, 60 credits. PhD, yeah, good luck. And not that you can't do it, but it takes a lot of time. You can do it, it's just another game. It's just like hacking. It's just like figure out what the rules are, break them as much as you can without getting in trouble, and then achieve the goal. Same problem, different outcomes, all works. Online degrees, be careful, because there are disreputable ones, and there's good ones. Call me. We have a good one. You'll be fine. I keep opening that. Perils, real quickly, because I want to run out of time. Lack of credentials, that's one of your big perils. Can't prove it, nobody knows what you got, nobody knows you. Okay, good luck, you're going to be tough. Too many credentials, that can hurt you. You have too much stuff, people are looking at you as an employee, they go, wow, this guy's like either a cert collector dilettante, or somebody's going to cost us a fortune to maintain, or they're overqualified for the job and they're going to stay here for 3 months and quit. So be careful. Now that doesn't mean you don't have to put everything on your resume either. You can leave certs out. I do it all the time. Like when I apply for consulting jobs, I don't put PhD on my name because PhDs are a bunch of idiots. I put CISSP or CCNA, I put those things on my resume. So think about it a little bit. Don't oversell yourself either. Get the certs you need and keep them. If you need the degrees, you're just going to have to get them, folks. Suck it up and do it. I'm sorry, but find the best path. You're hackers. I'm not saying to cheat. I'm saying find the best path. That's what hacking really is. It's not about being illegal or doing bad things. It's about finding the best path to the goal. So figure that one out, and you'll do well. They're going to come kick me out in a sec. I have even more perils and even more perils after that. So, but check this out. We already talked about it. I'm going to skip that. Finally, you got to like it. Okay, so that's the last one, and I'll shut up because these people are going to come in, and they're, as soon as they overwhelm us by force, we'll be forced to be taken out. Look, if you don't like this, move on. I hate to tell you. If you're here going, I hope I'll make big money, I really hate it. And that's why I asked that question. So I'm going to come back to that as my last thing, and I'll shut up. What's your favorite programming language? When you say, well, I hope I don't have to take too much of that, then I'm going, you don't like this. You're just here for some other reason. It doesn't have to be programming, it can be networking, whatever it is you like, but you got to like something. If you're just doing it for the money, it's going to suck and you'll be miserable. Go be a history major and sell drugs. I mean, you know, it could work out for you. Well, don't do that really. Thank you so much for coming. If you have questions, just hit me up. I'm going to be in the ballroom all day at down on the end, so if you want to come ask me questions about this, I'll do that then because I know we're going to run out of time. And I think they've reached an overwhelming number now. Unless anybody has like a taser, then we can fight our way. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much.